All right. So looking at your stuff, the first thing that I would say right off the bat is that you really want to pay attention to your um, you want to pay attention to your anatomy. And so looking at this, the one thing that I would say is, let's go in the brush here, and actually let me grab my pen brushes. All right. So one of the things that you're looking at is your anatomy is kind of off. With this, you've got the head, and the way the head is, it is really elongated and really kind of awkward, and it's also looking down, so it's got some kind of definite issues going on. And then the neck is kind of over here, but the problem you've got going on is that your torso is coming this way and your hips are coming this way. So there's no real like sense of construction under everything. And so what you want to do is you want to define the elements as you draw them. And this is where reference comes in and things like that. The other aspect too is, this is you've got really long knees, and then your calf comes over here, and then you've got these short tiny feet, and the shoulder juts over here. And so the problem you're running into is you're running into kind of that aspect of there's a lot of stuff going on. Now, what I would do is I would get like a posable doll or a friend to do this for you. But what you can do is you can start building up and start building it based on your torso. So if your character is reaching, so you would start off with some real basic, shapes. Um, and you're looking at this, and you're kind of looking kind of diagonal. Your torso, draw in those parameters where you're actually looking at your skeleton. So as you can see, now I'm drawing my proportional aspect in there, and then I'm going to kind of, here's my hip, and I'm going to kind of spin my hip a little bit. So there's a little bit of a twist in there, and that way then you can draw like so, and this one comes down here like this. And so it now starts making a little bit more sense. And the glowing ball kind of feels awkward, like she's paying attention to her shoe, but she's got this magical ball. So your positioning is very kind of weird, if that makes sense. So as you can see, just by doing something like this is much more realistic proportions where you're moving things around. And so that's going to kind of shift a lot of body parts around, and also kind of play with things a little bit more. So your breasts are not going to be like straight at you. They're going to be a little bit diagonal like this, um, kind of flowing like that. This is going to be straight, whereas this is going to be cinched. You're going to have a bigger knee here, like so, and then the calf is going to butt up against that. Same thing back here, the calf is going to butt up against that. So, just doing that aspect of drawing that skeleton out beforehand is going to really kind of give you what you're looking for. Now, the second thing that I would say is pay attention to your lighting. So, without worrying about the modifications to your skeleton and stuff like that, let's show you how the lighting is affected. So the lighting is actually, and I'll use my green here. So this is your light source, right? This is your main light, or your main focal point and your main light source. And you've also got an upper light coming up here from like so. So you've got two conflicting lights, and they're really not kind of working together. The other thing is you've got a light coming in this way as well. So you're trying to get too many things in there, and that's what's causing issues. Now, the first thing I would tell you is that with your light source, you want to break it into individual shapes. And so what I would do is, I'm just going to go new layer here, and what I would do is I'm going to take my hot light here, my hot color, and start just, this is my high value here, and then everything else here, and you can see I'm just going to kind of start showing you the lighting aspect of where my highlights are going. Um, and so I'm going to get a lot of really pushback here from this solid light source. So you're going to get some real strong light in here, probably going to get some strong light in here and here. You're going to get strong light on the breasts, and then you're going to get like a strong light here and here. So that's causing, that's part of your problem. The second part of your problem is you've got too many other lights going on. There's too much defined in there. And so what I would say is take this light source here, and you can use it to define your initial light. So we're going to just say this is my highlight, this is so. Okay, so these are my highlights. Then you want to define your shadows. So I'm going to take blue, and my shadows are going to be where those lights are fighting. So I'm going to have this light here, this light here, probably a lot of down here, probably under here, and on this, and so, and then you're also going to get cast light shadows on top of the breast because the light's underneath the arm. And so that's another aspect, something like that. And then you're going to get shadows up here, shadows on the head, and so on and so forth. So this is, these are your deep dark shadows. And so those are your defining points. And then what you're going to do is essentially just, and I'm just going to show you just for purpose here, but I would blur this out. So I would just kind of like so. And so you can now see that each light has a highlight and it has a conflicting shadow. So that's going to give you what you're going to need to kind of define that light. That's why I would use just a little mock-it up model or something like that, or again, use reference. And I think that's your biggest problem. Your rendering is fine. The problem is you're not using the reference to the fullest extent that you could, because what's happening is your anatomy is wrong, the lighting is wrong, and you're not understanding how to develop those without the reference. And so those are things that I would tell you definitely to pay attention to. Because that's going to kind of really place out things. Now, if I'm going to just kind of play around with this, the first thing that I would do is I would push this shoulder back. This shoulder should almost be like hidden. I would take and move the head, and we're just going to move. And I would move the head probably something up like this over here, and then we're just going to kind of fill this in here. Then I'm going to go in and fix this knee, because the knee is really awkward. And so what I would do is I would take this belt and kind of extend it around a little bit more, and that's your defining shape, and then highlight it with that high, strong red color. Adding in, and then this is where I'm going to turn on my opacity real quick. My highlights, so here is my shadows for the breasts. Here's my shadows for the face. This is probably going to be in shadows, so I'm gonna bring that down. And then here is you've got this cloth kind of really billowy and flowing. And what I would do is I would break that down and to something along the lines of transform that, maybe something along the lines of like this, and that's going to kind of really sell out. And you can see how just by getting rid of that, just shortening that knee a little bit, makes a huge bit of difference. We're just going to elongate. Let's take this down a little bit. And let's grab some of these dark blues here. and then I would paint it over that when I didn't want to, but I'm going to put in a little bit of a long, like so, and then I'm just going to grab this foot real quick, copy it, oops, do that, there, copy that, come on here, there we go, and so putting that above that, bringing that down here like so, merge that together, and so you can see, how we can even add in a little bit of a highlight streak in there, and then add in some wrinkles and things like that in there. And so you can see that elongates the body a little bit more and makes it a little bit more kind of formed the way it should be. And then you're going to have your lighting source here really strong, and then this is kind of where you need to kind of, I would almost darken this like so, and then I would put this highlight in here like it's catching the rim of the light, so something like that, and so that gives you a little bit more emphasis on your light source, if that makes sense. And then you've got this light casting a shadow here, so you might even want to grab something along the lines of like this. I'll just kind of block out that. And so that way your hand is casting the shadow, and then we can even grab some of these real highlights and kind of emphasize that as, you know, that's a strong point of light coming through there. All right, and so those are the things that I would tell you to work on. Like I said, I think if you just got yourself a really big, like a little doll or mannequin or something like that you can pose, or get a friend to pose for you, I think that's going to help you out. All right, I hope that helps.